Welcome to Mind Shield. We protect the mind and pursue the truth. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Mind Shield Academy. If you're trying to make sense of what feels like persistent harassment, it is so easy to get lost in this maze of confusion. So today we're going to build a practical threat model. Think of it as a tool that's designed to turn all that confusion into real clarity and ground you in what's actually happening.
You know, so many people who are going through this kind of sophisticated, relentless harassment feel completely trapped. It's like they're in that maze we just talked about. Your experiences are absolutely real, but the problem is your claims might get dismissed. Maybe by authorities, maybe by friends, because they just don't have a clear, structured framework. It really can feel like you're just chasing shadows.
Okay, so let's get right to it. A bad threat model, it just keeps you stuck in that maze, right? You're just speculating, going around in circles. But a good one, a grounded one, that's your flashlight. And our entire goal today is to hand you that flashlight. We want to help you produce actual, investigatable facts instead of just, collecting an endless pile of confusing stories. So how do we build this flashlight? Well, we've got to start with the basics, right? The fundamental framework that every single solid investigation is built on. It really just boils down to 3 core questions. These are the questions that are going to force us to separate what we observe from what we interpret.
First up, the actor. This is the who. Simple as that. Who could possibly be the source of this activity? And look, we're not just guessing names out of a hat here. What we're doing is defining categories of potential actors, and we're basing that on their relationship to you and what they're capable of.
All right, second on our list is the motive. This is the big why. Understanding the potential motive. Is it coercion, retaliation? Is it meant to destabilize you psychologically? It's absolutely crucial. Because the motive, that helps you predict their next move, and it really helps narrow down that list of potential actors.
And finally, we have the method. This is the how. And honestly, this is where we really ground our model in solid reality. We have to ask, what capabilities, what technologies, what resources would an actor actually need to pull off what you're experiencing? This is the step, right here, where all the fantasy stuff gets filtered out.
Okay, to make this all super practical, we're going to categorize these potential actors into 4 distinct buckets. Think of it this way. Each bucket represents a different type of actor, with different resources, different constraints, and each one leaves behind a totally unique forensic footprint.
So let's take a look at these 4 types. First, you've got the opportunist. This is someone who uses physical closeness. Think a malicious neighbor. Then there's the insider. They exploit trust and access, like a coworker or an ex-partner. Third, the remote actor. This person uses digital tools from a distance, spyware, hacking, that kind of thing. And finally, the big one, the organized actor. This is where you get into groups with significant resources, like a state-sponsored group or a private intelligence firm. As you can see, each one operates in a completely different way.
Okay, now we get to what is maybe the most important part of keeping our threat model grounded in reality. Here it is. Every single actor, I don't care if it's a lone individual or a massive state agency, faces real-world limits. Physics, money, the law. These things apply to everyone. This is our reality check.
Yeah, let's talk about cost for a second. Let's say you suspect an attack involves something really high-tech, like a directed energy system. You have to consider the price tag. Just to put this in perspective, according to some estimates from Fermilab, just the high-power transmitter alone could set someone back between $100,000 and $300,000. And that's not even counting the antennas, the power supplies, or the targeting systems. That's a huge investment.
And believe me, it is not just about the money. Any kind of advanced electronic attack runs into massive logistical hurdles. For one, things like microwaves generally need a clear line of sight. You can't just shoot them through buildings. The attacker also needs really specialized engineering knowledge. This isn't something you can just buy off the shelf at the store. Plus, and this is a big one, if you're operating high-power, unlicensed transmitters, you run a major risk of getting caught by regulators like the FCC. They don't mess around.
So, how do these actors actually put a plan into action? Well, you can think of a sophisticated harassment campaign as a sequence of steps, kind of like an operational playbook. In the intelligence community, they often call this a kill chain.
Now, understanding this progression is super helpful because it helps you figure out where an attacker might be in their process. It almost always starts with access, maybe hacking your accounts or getting physically close. Then comes observation. They're learning your habits, your routines. After that, they use that information for influence, to manipulate or destabilize you.
Then comes escalation, where they ramp things up. And all the while, they're trying to maintain cover, making sure their actions seem random or deniable. The key thing here is that each one of these stages can leave a different kind of evidence.
All right, so we've got the actor, motive, method, playbook. Now, I want you to listen closely, because this is the single most powerful mindset shift you can possibly make. You have to stop trying to prove your theory is true. Instead, you need to start actively trying to prove it's false.
Seriously? Just asking this one simple question transforms you from being a victim into being an investigator. Think about it. If you believe a microwave device is being used from your neighbor's house, what evidence would disprove that? Well, an RF meter showing no unusual signals from that direction. What if you think your phone is hacked? What would disprove that? A completely clean report from a digital forensics expert. See? This is how you test your assumptions against cold, hard reality.
This is a super disciplined process, and it's the most reliable way to get to the truth. First, you state your hypothesis. Clearly define what you think is happening. Second, you identify what would disprove it. Make a list of evidence that would contradict your theory. Third, you actively and lawfully go looking for that evidence. And finally, you adjust your model. If you find that contradictory evidence, great. You refine your hypothesis and it gets stronger. And if you don't find it after a really thorough search, well then your confidence in your original theory can and should grow.
So the whole point here is this crucial shift in focus. It's about moving away from just collecting an endless series of strange and upsetting stories. Instead, you're building a structured, disciplined, forensic trail. Each piece of data, every log file, every measurement, it becomes a single dot on a map that eventually can be connected. You're not just collecting stories, you're building a forensic trail.
The whole goal is to stay grounded, stay disciplined, and stay focused on what is actually testable. And by doing that, you build that all-important trail. So next time, we're going to build on this foundation. We're going to cover corroboration, which is how you move from "this is my experience" to "here is the independent confirmation." Thanks for joining this explainer. Stay safe, stay disciplined, and stay grounded.